The English Parliament has undergone significant transformation since its inception, evolving from a feudal assembly into a central institution of governance with profound powers. This evolution reflects broader social, political and economic changes in England and the United Kingdom. The roots of the English Parliament can be traced back to the Anglo-Saxon Witenagemot, an assembly of nobles and clergy advising the king. However, the Norman conquest of 1066 and subsequent centralization of power significantly altered governance structures. The Magna Carta of 1215 was a crucial turning point, compelling King John to seek the counsel of his barons on matters of taxation and law, laying the groundwork for a more structured parliamentary body. The Magna Carta established the principle that the king could not levy or collect taxes without the consent of his council, a precursor to the later development of a more formal parliamentary system. Over the next century, this council evolved into what we recognize as Parliament, with increasing representation from commoners alongside the nobility and clergy. By the late 13th century, during the reign of Edward I, the English Parliament began to take a more recognizable form. The Model Parliament of 1295 included not only nobles and clergy, but also commoners, marking the inception of the House of Commons. This period saw Parliament asserting its role in granting taxes and addressing grievances, although its power was still limited by royal prerogative. Edward I's summoning of the Model Parliament set a precedent for including commoners in governance, which gradually evolved into the bicameral system of the House of Lords and the House of Commons. The inclusion of commoners, primarily knights and burgesses, was significant in expanding the influence of broader segments of society within the governance framework. The Tudor period saw Parliament's role fluctuate, largely dependent on the monarch's strength and needs. Henry VIII used Parliament to legitimize his break from the Roman Catholic Church, significantly enhancing its legislative role. The Act of Supremacy in 1534, which established the monarch as the supreme head of the Church of England, was passed by Parliament, illustrating its crucial role in legitimizing significant religious and political shifts. However, it was during the Stuart period that tensions between Parliament and the monarchy intensified. The struggle for supremacy led to critical events like the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, which profoundly affected parliamentary development. James I and his son Charles both faced conflicts with Parliament over issues such as taxation, religious reforms, and the extent of royal prerogative. The Short Parliament, April 1640, and the Long Parliament, 1640 to 1660, were pivotal. The Short Parliament was convened by Charles I to raise funds, but was quickly dissolved due to disputes. The Long Parliament, however, played a crucial role in challenging royal authority, leading to the English Civil War. It implemented significant measures, including the Triennial Act of 1641, which mandated that Parliament be summoned at least once every 3 years, aiming to curtail the monarch's ability to govern without parliamentary consent. The Long Parliament took significant steps in asserting parliamentary authority, including the impeachment of the king's advisers and the passage of legislation without royal assent. The conflict escalated into a full-scale civil war, culminating in the temporary abolition of the monarchy and the establishment of a republic. After the execution of Charles I in 1649, the Rump Parliament, 1649 to 1653, was left to govern. It declared England a republic, abolishing the monarchy and the House of Lords. The Rump Parliament struggled with legitimacy and effectiveness, leading to its dissolution by Oliver Cromwell, who established the Protectorate and ruled as Lord Protector until his death. The Rump Parliament faced significant challenges, including internal divisions and external threats. Its inability to establish a stable government led to Cromwell's intervention, which further illustrated the complexities of balancing executive and legislative power. The monarchy was restored in 1660 with Charles II, but the balance of power had shifted. The restoration did not fully restore the old order. Instead, it was a compromise between royal prerogative and parliamentary power. Charles II had to navigate a more assertive parliament, which had gained experience and confidence in governance during the interregnum. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 was a defining moment, leading to the ousting of James II and the ascension of William and Mary. The subsequent Bill of Rights, 1689, established parliamentary sovereignty, affirming that the monarchy could not rule without Parliament's consent and ensuring regular sessions. This document was crucial in formalizing constitutional monarchy and limiting arbitrary royal power. The Act of Union 1707 merged the English and Scottish parliaments, forming the Parliament of Great Britain. This union aimed to create political stability and economic integration, reflecting Parliament's evolving role in overseeing a broader and more complex polity. The integration of Scotland into the parliamentary system required adaptations, including representation in both the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Several key reforms in the 18th and 19th centuries further transformed Parliament. The Septennial Act of 1716 extended the maximum duration of Parliament from 3 to 7 years, enhancing political stability. However, this was reduced back to 5 years by the Parliament Act of 1911, which also reduced the power of the House of Lords, limiting its ability to block legislation. The Reform Acts of the 19th century were particularly significant, expanding the franchise and redistributing parliamentary seats to reflect population changes. The 1832 Reform Act was a landmark, addressing the issue of rotten boroughs and extending voting rights to more men, although still limited by property requirements. Subsequent reforms in 1867 and 1884 further expanded the electorate, making Parliament more representative of the broader population. The 20th century saw further democratization and modernization. Women's suffrage was gradually achieved, culminating in the Representation of the People Act 1928, which granted equal voting rights to women. This marked a significant step towards gender equality and political representation and participation. The Parliament Acts of 1911 and 1949 further limited the Lords' powers, reinforcing the Commons' supremacy. The 1911 Act, driven by the Liberal government's conflicts with the House of Lords, established that the Lords could only delay legislation, not veto it outright. The 1949 Act reduced the Lords' delaying power from 2 years to 1 year, further cementing the elected House of Commons as the primary legislative body. In recent decades, devolution has reshaped the parliamentary landscape, with Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland gaining their own legislative bodies. This reflects a broader trend towards balancing central authority with regional autonomy within the UK. The establishment of the Scottish Parliament, the Welsh Senedd and the Northern Ireland Assembly has allowed for more localised decision-making, while still maintaining the overarching authority of the Westminster Parliament. The evolution of the English Parliament from a feudal assembly to a modern legislative body underscores the dynamic interplay between power, governance, and societal change. Each historical phase, from the medieval origins through the tumultuous Stuart period, the stabilizing reforms of the 18th and 19th centuries, to the democratization of the 20th century, has contributed to shaping an institution that remains central to British political life. The continuous adaptation of Parliament to new challenges and contexts highlights its enduring significance and resilience as a cornerstone of democratic governance. As Parliament continues to evolve, it reflects the changing values and aspirations of the society it represents, ensuring its relevance in a rapidly changing world.